Today is quite the momentous occasion. It's not only the day that the Richter amiibo released, but it's also the day of episode 3 of Smash Merch, the series where we take a look at all of the merchandise released for the characters in Smash Bros. I had made a couple episodes of this series last year, but ended up canceling it for a number of different reasons. And yet, this Richter amiibo stands for so much when it comes to the importance of video game merchandise, and also to me as a fan of the character, that I had to bring the series back and do a proper episode on the Vampire Killer. It all started back in 2016, when I was browsing YouTube and found an episode of James and Mike Mondays. They were playing this weird Japanese exclusive Castlevania game called Rondo of Blood. Soon enough I bought it on the Wii Virtual Console and became a huge fan. The graphics, the music, the action, it was all so cool. Richter was like a younger, more hip version of Old Man Simon, and quickly he became one of my favorite video game characters of all time. Since I collect video game merchandise, and this was my first venture into Castlevania, I had never looked at what was released for the series, and wanted to add a piece of Richter to my collection. I assumed there must have been some kind of Japanese prize statue, or at least a Gashapon figure, but to my dismay, I found nothing. No Richter merchandise whatsoever, at least not in the typical sense. That's why this amiibo figure is so historical. This amiibo is the first piece of 3D Richter merchandise to ever be released, and it looks perfect. You'll remember some of the earlier Smash 4 faces looked pretty bad, but there's no issue with this Richter. The paint on mine is also very clean, and I like how he's posed in the same way as the box art of Rondo of Blood. Amiibos seem to only get more detailed as they get released, and this one is packed with accuracy to the character. I think this might be my favorite amiibo not only just for how great it looks, but also because of how important it is, being the only 3D Richter item. I can finally represent the character in my collection, but it's incredible to consider that this was not the case for years prior. There was, and still is, an extremely small amount of Richter merch, and it's a wonder why they made what they did and skipped out on all the toys or statues of the character. Pre-amiibo, the closest item to a figure you could get was this strap of Richter that came bundled with the exclusive edition of the PSP Rondo remake, Dracula X Chronicles. The strap itself is just a plain black strap, with Richter being connected to it via metal chain. I've never held one of these before, but it looks like Richter was printed on a flat piece of vinyl that's hardly cut into a unique shape. It's pretty clever though how they made the chain appear as though it was his whip, with the sprite even being in the whipping pose. However, since it is just a sprite, I feel like they could have easily made Richter out of 3D beads, or gave it some kind of depth since pixel art can be replicated well that way. It's a wonder they didn't just go with official art of his head or something and call it a day. Also included in this bundle was a pouch with Richter's silhouette on it, but I hardly count that as merch. There's also a zipper version with the same print on it. Moving further away from 3D objects is yet another 2D piece of Richter merch, this time in the form of a telephone card. These are really collectible in Japan, and Symphony of the Night got a couple different sets of them. This set was likely available either as a pre-order bonus or in a special edition version of the game, which makes them very scarce. This set in particular is being sold for $700 on a Japanese website, which is far more than I think anyone would want to pay for a two-dimensional drawing of Richter. Unfortunately, things don't get much better when it comes to 3D Richter merch, as we only continue down the 2D rabbit hole with this next item, but that aside, it might be the holy grail when you consider Rondo of Blood and Castlevania merchandise as a whole. Buried deep within Google, I found a Japanese website that discusses what it calls Castlevania treasures, and on said website is a section for Rondo of Blood. Passing over the strategy guides is something I've never seen before and never even knew existed. This is a Rondo of Blood savings box, or bank as we call it, that was a pre-order item for the game when it came out back in 1993. The picture quality isn't that great, but we can see Richter on the top of the box with the game's logo. The front looks like it just reuses the artwork on the game's box, but the back is what really makes this a treasure. It depicts more characters from the game, including Maria, who is another playable character. While it's not exactly a figure or statue as I would prefer, this item is still extremely unique, and quite the holy grail for whoever owns this. I can't believe these are the best pictures we have. It's a miracle this was documented at all. Finally, we've made it to the last item, which doubles as a surprise since I was not aware of it prior to making this video, but it's definitely worth looking forward to. The website My Figure Collection often posts images of upcoming items that companies leak over social media, and wouldn't you know, it looks like First 4 Figures is planning to make a Richter statue, and it's likely this statue would be paired with their Alucard. While I couldn't find a source as to where this image came from, I know First 4 Figures does show previews of their work on social media. Unfortunately though, this was posted 7 months ago, so we might have to wait a little longer for it, and it'll no doubt be priced at several $100s, so most fans won't even be able to obtain it. There's also a chance it could end up getting cancelled though, as some First 4 Figures products have never seen the light of day, but only time will tell. Now we've made it to the end. Yep, that's all the Richter merch that exists. Looking at all the stuff gives me kind of a weird feeling. While yeah, it's really cool to see just how rare some of these items can be, and learning about a character like Richter through the scarcity of his merch, I really wish he got more attention when it came to figures and whatnot. Really, there's not a whole lot of Castlevania merch to begin with, but I'm so shocked Rondo of Blood didn't get a Gashapon set back in the 90s, or that no one even made garage kits of him for Japanese Wonderfests. The only thing that's abundant when it comes to Richter are straight up customs, some of which look pretty cool, but unfortunately these aren't official in any way, so they don't really count. This circles back to the amiibo and how excited I am to own it. The first and maybe only piece of classic Rondo Richter merch that finally got released 27 years after the game's release. I really hope we can get some more Richter figures in the future, and if you'd like to see more episodes of this series in the future, let me know. I knew Richter didn't have a lot of merch, but it was a labor of love for the character, so I had to bring the series back. If you'd like to see more episodes, leave some suggestions for other characters I should cover, and until next time, farewell.